Last time out in Global Ventures, I headed back to the Odyssey of the Olympians section to not only build an on-ride photo kiosk, but to also deck out the souvenir store. This time out, I'm returning to the newest section of the park. We have a brand new coaster that needs to be completed, so let's get on and finish this absolute beast of a record breaker. Hey everyone, it's M4J here, and welcome back to Global Ventures here on Planet Coaster 2. Welcome back to the Greek Antiquities, one of our two gift shops that we built in the last episode. The more I look at this, the more I do like it. I feel like it's missing some elements still, like this wall here is very boring and very plain. Maybe we could have put some shelving units along it. The reason I didn't is because I didn't think the walkway here was wide enough, and the more I look at that, the more I'm glad that I didn't put more there. I was trying to remember as well. Did I max out on... where are we? Was this even... Oh no, that's the info. How do I select you? There. Vacant shelves. Vacant shelves. Where's the actual store? There. Yeah, 39 connected shelves. I think there's a limit of like 40. So I won't even be able to do this if I wanted to. Unless I did like I have done over up the hill at the general store and split it into two, which is plausible. Could do that. Oh god, camera. It's plausible. I could potentially do that, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Instead, we are going to head up the hill to the Legend of the Frontier section of the park, and we're going to look at Bandito. Finally, we're going to get this record breaker, at least the track layout, complete. There's a lot of work I want to do today. Probably all of it is going to end up getting redone at some point anyway. But one of the first things I want to do is carve out in here somewhere where this track layout is actually going to go, because I would like to keep this lift hill where it is. Oh, you're testing. You're not supposed to be testing. Why are you testing? Good thing I caught that. I paused the game actually as well. That could have been disastrous. I'd like to keep the lift hill where it is, but I also don't. I kind of want to move it back a little bit. One of the things I wanted to do was to have a bit more interaction here between the railway and the ride, if that's even possible. The railway here is going to drop a level. I've already done some surveying. Sorry if you suffer from motion sickness, by the way. I am one of those people. That's the worst thing about this. I have done some surveying as to where the railway can go, and I think if I dropped it down a little bit here, first of all, that creates a nice little drop from the queue line here of Solimoesh down to the railway. The rocks here could all be extended downwards. That's not a problem. Over this side, we could maybe shorten the queue line here a little bit and make all this work a little bit better. That all looks a little bit messed up anyway, so that might be worth redoing regardless. Here we can actually have some waterfalls coming down and have a bit more path interaction here. Maybe even put a little lake in somewhere, a little pond, and have a series of waterfalls coming down the slope here, and then just have a little railway bridge that goes over the top of all that. This can all be lowered. That's absolutely fine. Here it becomes a bit of an issue, but I think the way to resolve that would be curve it slightly to the right here and then put a wider radius curve here, and then we can have some rocks underneath the rapids. This whole area is unfinished. I was waiting for the water park before I started working on this, so I'm not too worried about how it looks still. We do still need the railway to act as a bridge somewhere around this point. So we might have to have it climb up to go over a pathway here. This is going to become a new plaza. I had an idea, or at least over this way is going to become a new plaza. Because I had an idea to have a water park entrance. I mean, there's always going to be a water park entrance, but I had an idea to have this be like the main water park entrance. So you go through the park to get to the water park entrance, and then maybe have an out of season one down here, and then we can expand the hotel into all of this space, do something similar on this side, move this utilities thing somewhere else, and actually have this whole plaza here be surrounded by hotel. it's kind of a good idea. I think it might go somewhere. We'll see. I'm hoping hotels get added in the not too distant future to the game. And then we can actually have that be functional as well, which would be awesome. But yeah, at that point, the railway here would be a little bit lower down. And then if we build the town square in this sort of area, the railway would be, say, half the height. Which I think would be a lot more realistic. And then Manic Miner can sit behind it. Yeah, I think that's the way we're going to go. That's not for today, though. That's going to be for probably next time, if not the time after. The first thing I want to do is... let's do the terrain stuff first. We'll do a little bit of a live build here while I try and sort of figure all this out. So, let's correct all of this. So I think we're going to have it come through here. I'm just going to lower the land to where I want it, because I don't think any of the path underneath is going to be affected by this. So this should all be good. And then we'll bring it around like this and across like this. And the whole plan is to dig out the terrain. If you're familiar with the cut and cover method, that's basically what we're going to do here. So we're going to take this right the way up to the base of this lift hill. And then we have a really solid idea as to where the track layout here is actually going to go. I'm already tempted to mess around with the friction settings of this ride, just because I need it to go from here into an inversion somewhere around here. And right now we won't have much height to play with that inversion. So I would like to make it a little bit speedier, zippier, coming out of the tunnel. And then we should be able to get away with that. What's happened here? What was this? This must be from a previous attempt. I do not remember digging that out. You were. Yeah, so we're going to do this. We're going to do this. The track will end up probably being deeper than this trench. But yeah, the plan is to dig all this out. So I keep saying the same thing over and over again. We're going to dig all this out. We're then going to place the track through it. We're then going to build a structure around that track, which is going to be like a fake mine shaft with rocks and lanterns and all that stuff. And then we're going to put like a metal roof on top. And that's going to be our tunnel structure. So all of what you're seeing in this area is going to become part of the town square. And it's going to fill this huge space here. It's going to be like seating and stuff like that. There's going to be a restaurant, which is going to be over this way. Manic Miner is going to be over here, and there's going to be a bridge coming out of the railway station here, where the path goes underneath, and then this is all going to be built up as a fake mountain. And then there's going to be another flat ride over here-ish. Again, I'm just sort of glancing up at my map here as I'm talking. And then there's going to be, yeah, flat ride there, and then Manic Miner is going to go around that flat ride. And then there may even be a Ferris wheel in the town square here, which was part of the original plan, but the ride pad for that is quite large, so I don't want to commit to doing it and then have to not end up doing it because it's too big. We'll see. Right, now I've dug this out, I am going to bring this around this way a little bit more. So I think from here we're going to drop down, and then we're going to go slightly to the right, and then that's going to open up the angle for us to swing in one continuous corner to the left. And then we'll come straight out here. Because that's one of the... excuse me. That's one of the things about roller coasters. There's obviously friction in the track anyway. There will always be friction in the track. Even if it was a dead straight piece of track, eventually you would slow down. However, if you have things like... excuse me. Can you hear my voice starting to go already? I've only started... This is my first video of the day. That's not good, is it? If you have hills, it will... bleed off a lot of speed. Even if you have drops, it can bleed off some speed if the drops aren't steep enough. But the one that really does it is corners. Any kind of corner, because the wheels are actually pushing into the track. Unless you have an outer bank corner, but why we'd do that on this, I don't know. But the wheels are actually pushing down into the track, much like you're going up a hill. And that creates extra friction, and because the force of inertia is pushing the train or the car down into the track even further, it's actually increasing the supposed weight of the vehicle and therefore increasing the friction. So we want to try and keep turns to a minimum going around this section, and I think we have now achieved that. So this is going to be the layout of this section of the ride. As you can see, we are still occupying quite a large footprint here, but that is about to change because one of the things I'm about to do, excuse me, I've got hiccups now as well. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. We're going to completely rebuild the opening act. Well, not the opening act. That's in here. This is all fine. This is the only bit that's not being changed. This little hop here, these two launches are also not being changed. But this, you can see it goes up into vertical and then there's a piece of track here. We're basically going to remove this piece of track here and we're going to lower the height of all of this. It's not going to change the skyline too much. You can see it's still very much visible. But by doing that, we are going to stop the track from going over this path because we're going to have I guess an inverted top hat here now, and then that's going to go into a dive loop, which is then going to head in this direction, basically next to the launch. It's going to do the hop here, like it's doing here, into this booster launch, which is going to take it up and into another Immelman, which is going to be positioned closer to this brake run. And then that's going to fall down over here into a banana roll, which is going to be positioned slightly higher up than this because it needs to bleed off a little bit more speed. It's probably going to be more this height-ish, maybe slightly smaller. Again, it depends how much friction there is in the ride. And then from that, it's going to come down into a dive loop, which is basically the exit of this. And then that's going to climb up more this way into a roll over the path, and then it's going to do something over here into a brake run, which is going to be positioned further this way, and then there's going to be a building actually here, because right now this is supposed to be a town street, and you can see already the general store. It's not the biggest building. If I zip inside again, you'll see it's not the hugest structure. It goes quite a long way back, admittedly, but it's not massive compared to some of the other buildings we've got here in the park. But it occupies quite a lot of space. So here we're going to go for a slightly shorter and wider building, which I think is going to be a quick service restaurant type thing, possibly. We'll see. And then, yeah, let me turn the torch off again. That's going to be over here with the railway running next to it. And then from here, we're going to go into another little section of ride, which is going to occupy all of this space. And then you'll see from the top-down view, we're actually starting to bring the ride into a slightly tighter footprint. So this section over here will no longer exist. And what that also means is we can have a more gradual slope here from the pathway down to this section here where it's been dug away. Because we're obviously not going to have this bit diving down. And this bit's going to come out of the banana roll and then immediately go up again into the dive loop. So I think this is probably going to be the lowest point. So we can have a much more gradual... And that's one thing I wish you could do in this game. I wish you could choose, like, that's point 1, that's point 2. Whoops, didn't mean to shut that. But, you know, left click here for point 1, shift left click here for point 2, and it will just create a slope between the two. I said last time out about a queue time feature on my wish list, but I think terrain tools are something I would like to see looked at as well. But that's a lot easier said than done. Anyway, I've got a lot of building to do, so I'm going to go away and try and get as much of this done as I can. Basically, everything up to this point here, this flange, is going to remain... Yeah, this connecting thing here, that's all going to remain the same. But everything after this is going to get removed and replaced. So hopefully this won't take too long, and I'll see you again in just a moment. So a considerable amount of time has passed, and we've gone through many, many iterations of the ride, but we are now left with this. And I think this is pretty much how it's going to stay. This is the only element, this banana roll, that I think will change at any point in the future. From the top, it looks fairly symmetrical, especially from this angle. It looks really good. And I've actually got 3 different versions, 3 different angles of Ride to Happiness at, I want to say Plopsaland. Is that correct? Where is it? Wherever it is. Tomorrowland Ride to Happiness. And I've had a look at that banana roll, and it's still not exact. There's still a few differences between that one and this one. But the structure is fairly similar. The fact that it goes up The entry and the exit are right next to each other. It goes up, flips, down, flips, and all that good stuff. Banana rolls are probably the inversion I know the least about, in all honesty. So it's probably going to change again, but it's going to remain in the same footprint. We've also no longer got the dive loop that was meant to be over here. We've now got this elongated corkscrew, which I'm a really big fan of, actually. I didn't like it at first because I really wanted the dive loop. But basically, we bled off too much speed. So from here, we couldn't really get... I tried to do a little hop here and then up into a dive loop. But it was one of those weird things where there's not enough space to do that, but there's too much space to just go into the dive loop. So I thought the corkscrew would work better. And actually, I think it does. Because then we've got this really nice whippy helix here, where if you're sat here on the balcony of the general store, you've got a really nice view of the ride, and it comes up really close for some interaction, which I think is really cool. We also don't have the roll over the path anymore. Excuse me, that's been replaced by a brake run. Again, it was a speed thing. I think we just bled off a little too much speed too quickly, but that's fine. And then we come into this. So we drop off the brake run into a curve, which brings us level with the railway. It also takes us behind this building, which is going to be the quick service restaurant that I was talking about. This here, I think, is just going to be a facade, or it might even just be outdoor seating. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's going to be some kind of building that's going to occupy this area. This wall here is going to be a solid wall regardless, and so is this wall. But the front wall here might just be open, or it could be a facade for something else. I don't know what yet. But yeah, from here we launch up into this dive loop. That's another reason why we don't have the dive loop over here. It's because we've got one here. We then go into the 360 roll. Again, it looks like a vertical loop, but it's not. It's a 360-degree loop. It actually forms, if you look at it, pretty much a perfect circle. And the railway passes nicely underneath it, which is really, really cool. We might even put a theming element in this gap here as well, because it is quite high. I think it's like 14 meters off the ground, which is still really tall. That's off sea level, by the way. So, I'm trying to think. I think over here is like 5 meters above sea level. So it's still fairly high. I think sea level itself is like down here somewhere. Anyway, yeah, I didn't want to talk too much in this section, but here I am. Through the 360-degree loop, then we go into this element, which is kind of an Immelman, but it isn't, because it goes up on a curve into it. It does fully invert, but then it comes out the same direction it went in. So it is an inversion. It counts in my opinion. I've got a very creaky door behind me. Apologies if you heard that. It sounded very suspect, didn't it? But I promise you it's a door. Yeah, it's quirky. I like it. This ride is full of quirky elements, or it's going to be full of quirky elements. Let me talk you through the rest of it, actually. I was about to talk about the ride footprint. But yeah, from here, we roll out of that, and then that immediately transitions into this, which is a really slow roll over the railway, and then that comes down into the brakes. Now, already, I'm thinking I want to change this little section here. Purely because, first of all, I want to build a church in this area, and then the clock tower is going to be part of the church. The fact that this comes out of this roll, and it is a slow roll, I have adjusted the friction settings, and I haven't seen what kind of impact that has yet, so it might not be as slow as I have seen it already, but it still enters this with a little bit of zip, and it does slow down. It gets slowed down, no problem, but I just think it looks a little unrealistic, but maybe I'll have to leave it. And then from that, obviously around the curve, through this block break, and then into the lift hill, which I think is the longest single section of the ride, actually, climbing up the lift hill. It takes a long time. Anyway, before I do anything else, I do want to quickly show you what this ride looks like to ride on, because I don't think we've actually looked at that yet. And then from there, we're going to talk about what we're going to do next. So, into the lift shaft here, drop down. This will eventually, of course, be in complete darkness. Up over that little hill there, round the banked curve there into the first set of brakes. Drop off the brakes into the Heartline roll. This is very much inspired by Saw the Ride. Slight variations on the elements, but the main inspiration is obviously Saw the Ride. I think, is it Caracho as well? Has a very similar opening. Yeah, you get the idea. Then we're going to hit the launch. So we sit here for 10 seconds. The vault scene will be here. It was going to be on the track, but I think I'm going to put it off to the side now. And then we launch. Over that little hill, not too fast. And then down into this one, we go up to 58 miles an hour, I think that said. Over that element, whatever that's called. Into the bunny hop, where we do get lots of airtime. Up into this Immelman. Out of that into the banana roll. This is the first time seeing it in a POV, and actually that doesn't look too bad. Up into the corkscrew, zip past the general store, and then up into the mid-course brakes here. Off of those, around the curve here into the third launch technically. Then the dive loop, into the 360 loop. Nice bit of hang time there. Big fan of that. Up into whatever the hell you want to call this. And then this Heartline 0G roll thing into this mid-course brake. You see what I mean about it kind of slams a little bit into those brakes. So I think if I was going to change anything, it would be reroute the railway more this way and then around. And then from this, we'll have a more bog standard corkscrew go over the top. And then that can neatly transition into a proper set of brakes. So that's to do. That's for me to do some thinking on, if I can get my words out. If I do manage to achieve that, then I'm not going to rebuild this. There's no point, because this is quite nicely lined up actually still with the front of the bank. And I like having the clock tower opposite the bank. That was always the focal point of this part of the park. Even when I tried to build this on Planet Coaster 1, the clock tower and the bank, the locations of them both was fundamental with the essence of the ride, he says, talking absolute waffle. So I'm pretty happy with that. Actually, that POV looked pretty good. There was a little bit of jank coming out of this as well with the banking. It looks really smooth. Let me see if I can get a good angle of it. From here, it looks quite smooth. But on the ride, it did look a little bit iffy. So I think that's another good reason to sort of tighten the curve. I did contemplate at one point actually having a 0G roll or a Heartline roll coming through the 360 loop above the track, but I wanted the interaction to be this and not have something else in between. Even though I've talked about building a theming element, I think if anything that would encapsulate the top of the loop as well. Maybe integrate it into supports or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm happy with this. I'm happy with pretty much all of this, sans banana roll. That still needs a little bit of work. The hop into the brakes here is a little tight, should we say, the way it levels out. But again, nice pop of airtime. And the other issue, if you can call it that, is this element. But I kind of like the way it starts off quite smooth and then rips you back down again, because there's a lap bar on this ride. You don't have over the shoulder restraints. It's a simple lap bar. So not only are we breaking the inversion record, we're doing it with a lap bar. So I really like that idea of this ride is as much about airtime as it is about inversions, which is why we've got the little hop there as well. We've got the little one here. There isn't any in this section, but you've got the hang time from these two, if I line it up, these two inversions, one in front of the other. Technically, you've got hang time off these two as well. We could speed up the launch a little bit as well, and then I could elevate this a little bit more, but then that kind of messes this up still. I think what I want here is this to be a 90-degree curve, and then this to come around slightly. And then we've got all this room here for brakes, and then we can have a much better roll over the railway. But to go back to the footprint of the ride quickly, once this second section is in, or the final section that will occupy this area, you can see it kind of forms, it's like a line here and then this triangle shape, but there's other stuff in amongst it all, and there'll be another building here. We've now got a rough idea as to where the dark ride show building will go. The railway here is going to be meandering a little bit because it's going to go through the show building, but then it also needs to cross over the water park entrance, and it needs to then interact with this. So there's quite a lot of elements going on there as well. But yeah, I'm going to go sort out the creaky door, and then I'm going to go build the second half of this ride. I think I'm going to do the track layout here first and just get a complete circuit, and then I can come back and start twiddling with things again that I don't necessarily like. But I've got a fair idea. Oh, that's the other thing. So yeah, I took out the mid-launch here. That's one other thing. If we count up the inversions quickly, 1 in the show building there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The record is 14. That's the smiler. So we only need 5 more inversions. I've already got in mind 2 as soon as you bomb out of the mineshaft here. And the ride will end with a showstopper 2-element back-to-back as well. So there's only 1 more inversion, really, that we need to cram in somewhere in order to get the record. I think we can achieve it. Got to bear in mind, though, that roughly half the height of the drop here, maybe actually a third of the height of the drop, is where the brakes are. So we need to make sure that we hit the brakes at a reasonable speed still. And I think the brakes are still going to be, if we think the show scene here for the vault is going to be in this area, but we're also going to have this track here coming round it, which is why I really like the idea of having this remain on its course. Because then I've packed so much here into a tight space. I'm so happy with that. Whatever happens with the rest of this ride, the fact that I've got pretty themed queue here, a well integrated cattle pen here, a dark ride section, or at least a show building section, the exit into the gift shop, and I've still got room for an outdoor plaza and stuff here, and it's all within this space plus this. The only thing I don't like is the fact that the 2 queue lines come out of the side of the bank here. I kind of wish, because the back end of the ride here, where it's doing all of its elements over here, I really wanted the queue to wrap around those, but to get it from here all the way around to here and then back again, I think that's going to be too long. I think that's going to be too long of a queue. So we are just going to have to run it through here. But then there's also going to be facades along here, hiding the fact that there's this massive building here. So we're going to have things like, you know, a dentist, a doctor's surgery. I don't know what other stuff you'd have in a Wild West town. Let me have a little think. I got some pictures up of the Hotel Cheyenne at Disneyland Paris as well for some inspiration. But to be honest, that's kind of like a very theme park Wild West kind of vibe. So it's not the best. Anyway, I've just seen how long I've been talking for here. So I am going to put a cut. I'm going to go build the second half of the track at least. Save some space for the show scene here, because that's the main crux of the ride. It's when the vault gets blown open and then you get blasted out of the bank. Use all of this space back here for the second half of the ride, and make sure that we still make it into the brakes at the end. So I will see you again momentarily. 1 moment later, and I think we are done. As you can see, trains are running, and if you look in the background, you can see the finished ride. We're going to come to that in just a second. In terms of the first part of the ride here then, nothing's actually changed. Right the way up into the lift hill, nothing has changed. This is exactly how you saw it in the last part of the video. That includes this section here with the roll over the railroad. That may still be edited. The alternative I was thinking was if the railroad gets lifted up here slightly, then we could actually... Sorry, my camera's all over the place. We can actually straighten this out and then have the railroad pass over the track. That's a possibility. The other thing that needs to be changed is over here. This launch here needs to be dropped down slightly. It is doable. I've checked the clearance here. There's more than enough clearance here. The fact that it rolls onto its side here does help. Again, more on that in a second. And that loweredness can be evened out with this this down section here. So let me talk you through the second half of the ride. We drop off of the massive lift hill here, the clock tower. It is still way too big. The scale of this is going to be atrocious, but it is what it is. This game is definitely lacking in terms of realistic scale. But as I said, it is what it is. We then go into this pull-out. Now, all of this will get changed in the future. I just wanted to link this up and see what it looked like. So for a start, this right turn here, The banking on this is atrocious. And then all of this here is pretty much flat. And you can already see here the pull out here is quite sharp. So what I'm going to do, grab this bit of track here, drop it down further, and then I'm also going to tweak it so that it curves more to the right first and then swooshes back to the left. Then it'll level out for a second, and then it hits, turn the light on for a sec, then it hits this bit, which I really love, because previously in Bandito version 1.0 at the original Global Ventures, this just came straight out into an inversion. This time around, I really like this idea of it whipping you around this corner, because you don't expect it. This is actually the fastest point of the ride, I believe, now. Previously, it was the launch, but the launch, I think, only launches you to 60 miles an hour now, and this goes to 65. So you whip around this corner, which, again, might need a little bit more smoothing, but I think it's okay for the most part. And then the exit to the tunnel is actually going to be this section here. So dropping this launch down a little bit will help with the theming. This will all be enclosed. There's the whip. This will all be enclosed inside a tunnel still, and obviously under the plaza here, this will all be covered up as well. We then go into a second Immelman. Did not mean to build two Immelmans. This was supposed to be differently shaped, but actually it works out quite well. I don't mind having these two Immelmans. They are actually facing the same direction as well, which I didn't realise. But this one curves out to the right, this one curves out to the left. They are differently shaped as well. You can see this one is a lot more circular, and this one is a lot more, is it elliptical? The teardrop shape. So there are different forces in play here as well. And there wasn't really much. I could have perhaps put a dive loop in here instead, but I liked this. This looks cool, and the train rides it really well, as you can see. We then have this low to the ground section. Now this part of the ride here especially, I wanted to keep the taller elements away from the path, because we've kind of done that already over here. So for the sake of the ride, I wanted to keep the taller elements set back a little bit. There is going to be a footpath that comes probably off of this plaza here and then curves up and around the back of the coaster here. But this section here is actually just going to be trees and shrubs and things like that, and rock work. So this is the low to the ground part. We could potentially have a little footpath in here as well, and maybe a little stool or something down here. Just a little seating area, something like that, so you can actually see the ride. Because apart from this bit and this bit, you can't really see the ride from anywhere. Like, obviously you can see the tall bits, but you can't get close to it to actually sit and watch it. So yeah, this could be a little opportunity for that. We then come into this curve, again, quite nice forces, and then we go into this, which is a Norwegian loop. It looks a bit like a pretzel knot as well, actually, or a pretzel loop, but I assure you it's meant to be based on the Norwegian loop. I keep going to say it's Kanon. It's not Kanon. It is, let me do my research quickly. Norwegian loop. It's a double inversion. Speed Monster at Tusenfryd in Norway, which is where it gets the name from, because it's a loop in Norway, therefore a Norwegian loop. I love this. I think this looks so cool. We'll watch the train ride through it right now as well. The pacing on this ride is pretty spot on too, if I do say so myself. You get the slow elements at the top of the inversions, bit of hang time, but then you get the whip and the drive and the speed at the bottom of all of these elements, which I really, really like. Coming out of the Norwegian loop, you come into this, which is actually similar to the roll on Hades off to the left here. But I think on this, with a lap bar, it would be quite unique. The problem I had was, I want to break the record for inversions, and at the point where we leave the Norwegian loop, we were up to 13. The record is 14, I wanted 15, which meant I wanted, or needed, 2 more inversions. Originally, I wanted to have a finale very similar to Mystery Mine at Dollywood, where it does the Heartline roll and then the half Heartline roll into the dive loop. And I really, really wanted that, and I built this brake line in line for it and everything, and then realised there was actually no space for it. So this is kind of the compromise. It's a double barrel roll, very similar to the end of Outlaw Run, except those are in series, one after the other. This is, it's kind of like a lagoon roll as well, I suppose, where you go one way and then you go the other. Ignore the fact that this is a long way off the ground right now as well. The landscape will be adjusted so that the ground level, it'll be a slow, gradual hill down to this point here. So this point here even will be ground level, the way it will slope down. So actually this won't be very high off the ground at all. The brake run will technically be high off the ground, but with all the landscaping and stuff around it for the fake tunnel, it'll look pretty low to the ground as well. The fact that it just about passes over the top of the launch here, obviously the launch is about to get dropped slightly, so that won't matter as much. But yeah, this is it. This is Bandito. This is the layout pretty much that I'm going to stick with. As I said, there may be some small changes. This element here may get rebuilt, this weird banana roll thing. This roll over the railroad might get rebuilt. And nothing over here will get rebuilt. But the launch will get dropped down slightly just for that space. And the only reason... Did I mention the reason? I don't think I did. The priority queue and the main queue are going to come back through here. So what's going to happen over this area is this wall that you can see here is going to get moved in slightly. And then this wall here is obviously going to get moved in slightly as well to match. And that should create just enough space for 2 queue lines to go straight through there. And the main queue here, the priority queue is just going to go straight into that. The main queue is going to snake around here a little bit. And there's going to be a facade which is going to look like some sort of old building. Old abandoned building. And the idea for the queue line then is the bandits hideout will be built here, which will actually be just above the bank. And there'll be a bridge that goes over this that goes into that. So we need to drop this so that the queue line can actually go above it. Now we can afford to build a slight slope in the queue line here, but we still need to drop this down enough so that if we build it at floor level as here, say, this doesn't feel too claustrophobic and there is still enough of a sight line to see the vault. The vault is going to be built in this space here. So the bandit hideout is going to be directly on top of this. And again, it's that utilization of space that I was talking about earlier in the episode. The entrance to this is going to look like an old abandoned mine building, because obviously the tunnel underneath is the old abandoned mine shaft. So you walk into this here, you then zigzag around a little bit, you come through here, and without even realizing it, you've passed the dark ride section of the ride. And then you emerge here, do your little zigzags again, and then go into the bank. That's how we're going to get around all of this. What that also then means is this old abandoned mineshaft tunnel here is going to be themed and decorated. The queue line is going to pass over the top of that and underneath this barrel roll. And then this whole central area here is going to be queue, theming, shrubbery, abandoned buildings, all that good stuff. And we're going to really go to town on theming all of this. This section here at the back, we're going to ignore that for now. There's going to be a path that comes around here, and that's going to be the path that joins up. If you go back to the preview video, that's going to join up at the back here, and then all of this is going to be the town square with the wagon wheel in the middle of it. That then means we can have that over there with the station here and all that good stuff, and it's going to look freaking awesome. Right. I think that's it for this episode. I am going to end this episode with a POV of the complete ride as it is now. Obviously, this is not how it's going to look. Probably not even at the end of next episode, because next episode we're going to start theming all of this. We're going to do it in stages, and I think we're going to start at the start of the ride and work our way through to this point. Then we're going to do all of this section so we can get the queue finished as well, and then technically we could open this ride. The actual marquee entrance for the ride is going to be over here as well. So when this path comes round, the steakhouse and everything is going to be around this area, and then Manic Miner is going to occupy all of this back area with a couple of flat rides in amongst it as well. But the actual entrance to Bandito is going to be here, so you're going to pass underneath this corkscrew inversion, whatever you want to call it, into the infield here, do your stuff, and then cross over the ride again to go into the hideout, and then go into the rest of the queue, and eventually the bank. There's a lot at stake here. There's a lot going on. Hopefully the queue doesn't feel too long as a result of all that, but I'd like to think until you get to this proper cattle penning bit here, you're not really going back on yourself much. Like even here, you're constantly moving into a different part of the building, and out here it'd be the same thing, and then over here as well. We're not going to cattle pen it as much. it's going to be quite open and free, and hopefully free flowing, because as you can see, there is a train always waiting to enter the station, but these are spaced 35 seconds apart, and the pacing so far is actually proving to be pretty damn good. Just as this train here leaves this brake section, this one crests the top of the lift hill. If you watch, so that train has now slowed down. It's just gone through the block brake there, and then as the rear end leaves, this one is just starting to crest the hill. And as that's happening, this one in here is just leaving the launch, and this one here has just entered the launch. So they're pretty well spaced, I would say. This is pretty good. I had them at 40 seconds originally, but 35 seems to be the sweet spot. And I think we've got 7 trains, yeah. Saw the Ride at Thorpe Park has 8. And they don't all run at the same time. I believe they do run 7, maybe even 6. So, yeah, this is pretty good capacity-wise. We should have a nice amount of guests able to get through here. I can't be bothered right now to work out what the hourly capacity is. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's it. Ride track complete. Between episodes, I'm going to make the adjustment to the launch here, so we don't have to worry about that next time. So next time is all about the theming. So until then, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to give you the POV now. So I won't do my usual outro. You'll know when the video's over, when the music starts playing. But yeah, enjoy the POV, and I'll see you next time.